It is a state in the Eastern Territory from Shenzhou, Qianlan, Haoqi City. There were 3 people there. The man reported that Xiqi Jin said that he had already made the flying sword that the Lord had asked for, and the sample would be here soon. Feng, who is the eldest son of the head wife of the caretaker of Cold City, praised the man for doing a good job. A subordinate was already flying toward him, who called out to the young master. He reported that the caretaker of the city had issued an order. All young cultivators above the level of Qi concentration in Haoqi City must immediately arrive at the assembly hall. Feng replied that it had nothing to do with him, so he would not go. It had been 19 years since he arrived in this world. When he was 3 years old, he started to refine his Qi, and now he had only reached the 3rd level of Qi concentration. He still has a long way to go to the 8th level. The guy thinks he worked hard in his past life to make enough money someday, start his own company and get rich. He asked if the shenzhou of order should also come. The subordinate replied that he would be there. Although no one believes in his reputation or respects him, but since his father purposely summoned him, if he doesn't go, his father will be disappointed in Feng. It's problematic for him. He doesn't like those family elders. Every time he sees them, they sarcastically mock the guy. He really doesn't want to be a part of all this so badly. He pulled out a single gold coin, after which he gave this coin for a subordinate. The guy told Zhulong, who was with him, that they would go. It's luck, not a curse, so they will take advantage of it. Zhulong asked whether to bring the master a sword. Feng replied that he did not need the sword yet, and they should not be in such a hurry. Let them wait for them. The caretaker's meeting room. There were already a lot of people waiting in the assembly hall. Feng apologized. It was a long way for his feet, so he apologized for making them wait. Liantian, who was the overseer of Haoqi City, replied that since everyone had arrived, they should start the meeting. He said that 3 days ago, the imperial ambassador had sent an order from the emperor. The 236 families under his command were already struggling to make ends meet. The output of spiritual stones in the stone quarry in Haoqi City has dropped sharply. The cultivators of Haoqi City will be outraged. Another man couldn't help but know about it, except that it was an order from the emperor. The city caretaker replied that they, as cultivators of the Eastern Territory, should die for the good of the country. He also asked the others if they had any ideas, but everyone fell abruptly silent. These old men usually collect so much heavenly treasure, but they do not pretend to be beggars at critical moments. His father, as caretaker of the city, cannot act cruelly, for he might lose respect, and it is hard to get money from these people. The man realized that since there was no good solution, they would postpone the matter for now. He further said that one of the elders had suggested that Feng be removed from the order. The man asked what they thought about it. What must be, he had expected such a question. The guy has been at the top of the order for years, but has absolutely no accomplishments. It stands to reason that he should back off. He's been improving for almost 20 years, but he's still too weak to submit. It's a disgrace. The caretaker replied that Feng had not made any mistakes. Forcing him to leave would be unfair. Gu Huaisheng, who is Feng's uncle and Liangtian's younger brother, suggested that there might be a mistake. The caretaker inquired as to the meaning of these words. Uncle replied that Haoqi City had a direct order that no one but the caretaker of the city could create groups of cultivators characteristic of the army, and if they did, they would be considered rebels. However, as far as he knew, Feng had recruited 3,000 cultivators under the pretext of creating flying sword masters, which is now located in the western part. Admittedly, he doesn't know if it counts as a mistake for them. Others replied that it was a crime worthy of death. He follows quietly behind their backs. It is definitely time for such a man to leave his position. The overseer didn't like hearing them suggest that his own son was going to kill him. The man didn't ask the caretaker not to say that. Feng is his only son. He is also confident that the boy will not start a rebellion. He only needs to complete the recruitment of sword masters and dissolve the treasure loan pavilion and those 3,000 cultivators. Except that he won't be able to rank first in the legacy sequence again. The caretaker was getting nervous. But then the protagonist decided to speak up. He doesn't recognize the truth of his uncle's words. All those 3,000 cultivators have given themselves entirely to making flying sword vessels. Their cultivation level is low. If an army were to be formed from them, it would be a worthless army. Uncle believes that low-level cultivators don't follow any basic laws of the city. By doing so, he only devalues the laws of Haoqi City. But the Lone Pavilion and the organization of master craftsmen were established with the support of his father. Zhulong can witness the whole process of control and management over them. The subordinate replied that these words were true. Uncle turned to another old man looking for support. But there's no point in arguing. Gu Feng, who is Gu Feng's third uncle and Gu Kun's father-in-law, asked how he could continue to be first in the sequence when he did not honor the laws of the city and pulled such tricks. The third uncle's words are unfounded. Cultivators don't spend spirit stones in battle. These spiritual stones are their life force, and a merchant's business is a way to control it. If third uncle doesn't need vitality, why doesn't he donate 50,000 high-grade spirit stones every month to ease his father's worries? This little guy doesn't understand anything about it. 50,000 high-grade spirit stones is too much. Where will the old man get it from? Still, the existence of a third uncle is futile. Uncle wanted to say something against this boy, but then he stopped talking abruptly when he saw the glow. The caretaker of the city was amazed by this as well. This young master could easily obtain them. Behind him was a mountain of spirit stones. The boy will share his father's concerns. These 100,000 high-quality spiritual stones he is donating for the benefit of this city. The overseer was satisfied with this action of his favorite son. The guy turned to the third uncle again and started talking about spirit stones. He was suddenly reminded of a counting book. The boy called out to the steward W. There was a book in the servant's hands. The subordinate said that on the second day of the third month, third elder Gu Feng and his daughter-in-law Wang went to the treasure loan pavilion. Using the third elder's soul particle as collateral, they borrowed 300 top-quality spiritual stones for a period of 6 months. On the 9th day of the 4th month, Mrs. Wang borrowed another 50 top-quality spirit stones. On the 2nd day of the last month, Mrs. Wang again borrowed 300 superior spiritual stones. Considering the interest, the total debt owed by Mrs. Wang is 2,100 top-quality spirit stones. The boy wondered if the uncle knew about his sister-in-law's debt. The old man explained that he had given his piece of his soul to perfecting himself and attaining enlightenment. How could he bail him out? This fellow should not besmirch his name in vain. If Thur's uncle refuses to pay the debt, in that case, he shouldn't blame Gu Feng for dishonoring him in front of everyone. In his hands, the evidence that Madame Wang had left behind when she borrowed the spirit stones appeared. There, she asked Mr. Gu to lend her another 500 top-quality spirit stones. The new 6-flying-letter correspondence amulet is very interesting. The old man fell from his seat after what he saw. The protagonist wondered what the third uncle would do now. He had expectorated so much blood. Now, at least 10 years of cultivation he no longer had. Gu Feng's grandson, the second in succession, namely Gu Kun, stepped in for his uncle. He explained that his uncle was a cultivator on the border of level 8. He was about to break through to the next level, and now the guy had ruined everything. As the second in succession, he, as the second in line of succession, challenges him to a fight. And the protagonist explained that according to the order by seniority in the clan, he is Gu Kun's uncle, and he is Gu Feng's nephew. According to the status, Gu Feng is a candidate for the caretaker of the city. This ill-mannered youngster is just barking like a dog and embarrassing himself. This trash that's stuck on the second level needs to die. The guy used the Jindan, Silver Dragon sword. This kid is digging his own grave. What kind of idiot doesn't have a plan at all goes straight ahead? But for some reason, Gu Feng's father does nothing, and this sword was right in front of him. This attack was stopped with 2 fingers. How dare he even attack the young master? Julong wondered if he had had enough of life. He started twirling Gu Kun's flying sword. After these actions, the guy was bleeding from his mouth and eyes. This is unworthy behavior for Gu Kun. He dared to attack his own kinsman in the assembly hall. Watch took away his salary for 6 months and imprisoned him for a year to reflect on his behavior. He also stated that Gu Feng's sequence would never be mentioned again. This concludes the meeting. The guy told his father that his son almost wet his pants today. That madman needs to be taught a lesson. But they were stopped. If he's not mistaken, Gu Feng's cultivation is at the 3rd level of Qi concentration. The man inquired about the progress of this. The Gu family has been responsible for the prosperity of the city for thousands of years, and the first in the sequence has always been a candidate for the caretaker of the city. The guy's cultivation is so low that even an ordinary assassin could easily kill him. The man thinks it would be difficult for Gu Feng to take on such a big responsibility. Does the caretaker really, for his own selfish reason, want to hand over the city to Gu Feng? Then what will be behind the 10,000 years of history of Haoqi City? If he can't break through to the fusion level within 100 years, he will die. And then the heavy burden of ruling the city will pass to Gu Feng, but his cultivation level is really low. But the guy replied that it was nothing. Does he really think that his nephew's cultivation is really low? If the uncle's sure about it, he's the guy offering to make a bet. There was blood on his finger. If he can break through to the Jindang level in a year, his uncle will never raise the issue of primacy of succession again. If the lad fails, however, he will voluntarily relinquish his position, leave the city, and never return. The uncle replied that he must answer for his loud words. He must be out of his mind. Who does he think he is to think that he can break through to the Jindan level in a year? A mere third-level master of Qi concentration would break through to the Jindan level. It would at the very least take a few dozen years, if not hundreds of years. Even for those with great talent with the provision of resource and family support, it takes 5 or 6 years. He is just a brat who has been stuck at the third level for 10 years now. The second uncle caught this piece of paper. Gu Feng reported for second uncle that he had taken a blood oath. He needs to find some free time. Gu Feng told Qianlan to switch. The subordinate reminded the young master that he had recently made a bet with second uncle and made a blood oath. One must initially take care of his cultivation. But the boy asked what was the rush. It could wait. He also asked if the man they had contacted had come and what his strength was. Julong, he replied that he was 3 or 4 meters away. He would be here soon. As for strength, he has a lot of energy, and his sword is as sharp as a blade. So the rumors are true. The guy orders him. If anything happens to him from now on, nothing Julong should do. The protagonist has a plan. And so another man arrived. The young man who appeared asked if he was the one who asked him to come here. Gu Feng replied that it was indeed him. He didn't expect that soulmate Ye was so straightforward. Therefore, he too would not be ceremonious and would get straight to the point. Ye Tianchen, born in Fengming village, fell into the Fengming Mountain sword sect as a child. At the age of 11, after reaching the 10th level of Qi concentration, he was forced to flee due to a conflict with the son of the caretaker of Haoqi City. During his escape, he discovered the tomb of an immortal and obtained his legacy. Upon returning, Ye Tianchen severely wounded 3 and beheaded 5, including his enemy, the caretaker's son. The caretaker of Haoqi City, Mujin Zhengyi, was enraged and destroyed the entire Fengming sword sect. With the heavenly sword and Jindan cultivation, he was able to overpower Mujin Zhengyi, save his beloved little sister mentor from childhood, and survived. Since then, he had disappeared without a trace. Ye Tianchen put a sword to Gu Feng's throat and asked if he too wished to present it to Haoqi City, but the guy reassured him. Although Haoqi City has ordered all the eastern territories to execute him upon meeting him, but Gu Feng has no evil intentions. He doesn't want to wallow in this muddy water. He reminded the guy that a month ago in the city, at the Lone Pavilion, Ye Tianchen had borrowed a jade elixir. Ye Tianchen wondered why he suddenly mentioned the Lone Pavilion. He showed a picture of a girl who asked if she could get the jade elixir. If they tricked her, they shouldn't blame her later if she killed them all here. In fact, the owner of the Lone Pavilion was Gu Feng. If the core legionist had long ago said that he was a woman, the Lone Pavilion would have allowed him to borrow the elixir for a small amount of money. This level of shooting is far inferior to what Teacher Chen can do. It seems that he now needs to teach himself how to shoot. She immediately showed her true colors and called him a lecher. The girl decided to kill Gu Feng. Gu Feng asked Julong to save him, but the man recalled the young master's words about ordering him not to interfere. Young master should stick to his words. Thus, he decided to show young master the importance of cultivation. Meanwhile, the protagonist was already lying on the ground and begged unanimous E to spare him. He decided to make a deal with her and offered to remove all her interest. She called the guy a low cultivation scumbag and already wanted to strike him again. He was definitely finished. The sympathy level had reached a negative number. It will turn out to be necessary to use Trump. A nightmare of card sharks. The abyss of thousands of gamblers. The ultimate evil concept for the future of the world. He called for the strongest donation system ever. And then a girl appeared above him, saying how long it had been since the master had summoned her. If it hadn't been for the critical situation, he would never have called her. Time travelers have the system attached as a must-have. But the guy didn't expect it to be a super fraudulent donation system. Not to mention that using the system randomly deducts a large amount of your own wealth. But the worst part is that if he doesn't finish the final task before the progress bar runs out, that girl in the system will eat his soul and he'll be working for her for all eternity. What a stupid person designed this system. Why else would he do this task of realizing world greatness in this world? He came here to lie down and enjoy life. not to sacrifice himself for the highest ideal of humanity. She asked the master to calm down and told him that only 1,000 spirit stones were needed. He told the system to get away from him. He also said that he wanted Ye Tianqin's sympathy for him to increase to the limit. She realized that men really are such ruthless creatures. How stingy he was with jewelry. But no matter what she said, he wouldn't spend anything on her. She must work hard. She agreed to do it after all. A nerd has no future without donations. Only with the system can he strengthen himself. She's raised the sympathy level. The entrance to the lone pavilion. The immortals of Tiangong School were asked to follow her. She revealed that this was their largest 10th vault. 200,000 spirit stones were stored inside for loan. By following a simple procedure, they would be able to obtain spirit stones to restore their lands. He never thought that the Tiangong School would now be able to gain a second wind in his hands. But they've already borrowed 200,000 and 500,000 more. They had also signed contracts for 100 years of service. It was unclear whether they would be able to repay the whole debt. But the teacher told them to shut up and asked them why today's youth had no sense of devotion to serving the family. They entered the vault, but there was nothing there. The girl took Brother Gu's hands and said that she misunderstood him. Her words are so meaningful. They are not strangers to each other after all. If it's her mistake, she won't give you any more trouble, Brother Gu. The girl's sympathy level was at its maximum level. The guy replied that she wasn't giving him any trouble at all. Next time, she could borrow some money here. When she's saved enough to pay it off, she'll come to him. He barked out that he would keep her pictures carefully. No one but him would ever see them. It was very strange that just now, she wanted to kill the young master with a threatening look, but suddenly changed her behavior. It was all because the young master had used the power of money. His heart suddenly ached so much for some reason, but this time he wasn't seriously injured after all. The caretaker's meeting room. Nalan Yuan, who was the manager of the Xiqi camp, said that the caretaker had suddenly secluded himself. At that time, one wondered why the young ranger had summoned all the warlords. Lu Zhen, who runs the Jia camp, although he and his is in charge of Camp A, which has the most soldiers. He's not a worm in young master's stomach, so how would he know what he's thinking? But it's all because of his low cultivation. He couldn't bring a good gift when they first met. The guy was a little late, so he apologized to everyone. He had 2 boxes and 1 bag. He asked to accept this insignificant gift as an apology. Lu Zhen replied that it was impossible to be recognized without good merit. Nalan Yuan suggested getting straight to the point. He suggested waiting for everyone to gather. He also asked if Feng Feixue from Bing Camp had arrived yet. The guy was scared from the fact that he hadn't seen Feng Feixue yet and handed over her portrait. He doesn't know if she really looks like that, but she looks like a girl from a high-ranking family. Meanwhile, this same girl was in the process of beating up a man. He's such a lowlife if that's all his power is. Bing Camp manager, Feng Feixue, has just warmed up. Now it's just about time to go to that scum Gu who's ruining the family. A man suggested that they postpone the discussion of the plans, because they would not be able to do it today. But someone told no one to disperse. A girl arrived who had heard that the young master had summoned them today. Therefore, she has prepared a gift to mark the occasion. It was amazing that she brought a gift too. The manager of the Bing camp, Feng Feixue, wishes young Mr. Gu good luck. And also the girl stated that she wishes to get promoted and get rich. She asked the young gentleman if he liked the gift. Just like Gu Liantian said, this little guy wants to unite the army and take control. But he is still quite inexperienced. He had assumed that the foolish girl would be late and make a spectacle of herself. If he couldn't even subdue her, he'd have to forget about controlling the army. The boy was delighted, for this gift appealed to him. It's rare for Fan to prepare such a good gift. If he doesn't give an expensive gift in return, he can't afford to accept it. This carefully prepared gift. He just seized it from Commander Lu and Commander Nalan. If the girl doesn't mind, let her accept it. But she doesn't need that falseness. She won't let herself be fooled. Today, she came here to get money to strengthen Bin's camp. If the guy can do that, she won't bother him anymore. But if he can't do it, then even she doesn't care that he's the first in the succession of inheritance. Lu Jin didn't understand why this wench was acting like a little child. Young Master Gu had literally just recently given a huge amount of money and pulled Haoqi City out of immediate danger. Where could the money for her military needs come from now? Their young master to create the Xiqi organization, a special department for amusement, spent all the spirit stones in the city's warehouse. So where could he get the extra money from? For the past few hundred years, The Eastern Territory has been at war with the barbarians in the south every year and has been suffering huge losses because of it. Haoqi, being a subordinate city of the Eastern Territory, naturally has to follow the military principles. The soldiers subordinate to the city have not been paid year after year, and this year, they still owed 3,000 top-quality spirit stones. But the man didn't want to bother the young master about this matter. They would find a way to settle it themselves, but it's just money. The guy's got more. He had prepared spiritual stones for them all as a gift. They themselves refused them. A young gentleman should be told directly if there's no money. There's no shame in it. But how can Commander Qianlan say that? Even if there's not much, it's still out of pure intentions. But these spirit stones aren't even enough for a good meal. Young Master Gu's jokes are disgusting. The girl replied that she shouldn't do that next time. She wanted to leave. But suddenly, all three of them noticed a spiritual stone of the highest quality. It's a priceless jewel. Do they still think he's messing around? The guy explained that it was a spiritual stone of the highest quality. Its value is 10,000 top-quality spirit stones. Wouldn't that be enough for military expenses? Feng thinks that Commander Lu and Qianlan don't need money. Therefore, these 3 top-quality spiritual stones can be taken by her. She apologized to the young master for being rude. This favor extended to Camp Bin she would never forget. The lad explained that this town was his home, and its development depended on everyone. This is not a matter of any difficulty for him. He said goodbye to the 3 commanders, and if they had any free time, have them stop by for a visit. With the money ability, even with such a rude girl, there would be no problem. He would be curious to see what would happen next with Lu Zheng and Nalan Yuan. The subordinate shouted that he was young. The master was cautious. After all, some weirdo had invaded this place. Lu Zhongwen reported that the Xiqi organization came with a report. But suddenly the girl began to fall. Would he be strangled just like that? And now he was sitting almost all flushed. It turns out this girl's name is Lu Zhongwen, and her job number is 9527, and she is also a master in the Xiqi organization as well. She already wanted to explain herself. But then the subordinate began to explain that, in his opinion, this girl had decided to take advantage of her position and seduce her young master to move up. He had already told this girl that the young master had kept his honor for 18 years. He immediately closed the gate to his subordinate and asked the girl what business she had come here for. Perhaps it wants to discuss the relationship in the Xiqi organization, remuneration or work mode. They have 5 kinds of insurance and a pension, as well as 2 days off. Last time the young master talked about creating a talking chicken, so the girl invented it. The young gentleman said that there is a magic vessel called a cell phone. It could transmit sound for 1,000 miles, allowing faraway people to talk to each other. She improved the 1,000-mile light mirror spell and voice transmission technique with a low-quality spiritual stone and created it. It's just not possible. He said this without a second thought, but she was able to invent a cell phone. Such a vessel didn't seem to have killing power, but for ordinary people who don't have magical powers, this vessel would truly change lives. One just needs to think about the lives of merchants who travel, the soldiers who serve in the military and those who have left their families behind. All of them need help. He invited her to his chambers to tell her all about it in detail. The subordinate just watched them walk away quickly. He realized why on earth none of the girls the caretaker sent for Feng liked. From the beginning, he had liked the ones with large breasts. Suddenly, the young master turned to Manager Wu. The man said that Xiqi's organization needs another manager in the technical department. He also ordered Lu Zhongwen to be promoted to this status tomorrow. Her monthly salary will be 1,000 spirit stones. From the young gentleman's quarters came male cries that he could do no more. He hasn't been practicing. He's been sitting for a long time, that's why he's sore everywhere. The guy didn't expect that she not only had perfect vascular technique, but also had skills in massage. But for her, there is no difference between a person and a tool. You just need to know all the articulations and structure, and then you can manipulate them. She also mentioned that it was very rare to meet someone like the young master. The guy wondered why she thought that, but she only got embarrassed. If the young gentleman has no further business with her, she has decided to return to do some manufacturing. And manufacture she will, he says, what is called a computer. He didn't expect that there was this kind of talented person in this backward cultivation world. She is quite an interesting person. He told the system that he needed to enter Lu Zhongwen's memories. The master has called the system back in for some woman. It's breaking her heart. The guy explains that he's already given the money, so she should stop talking and start acting. The system has agreed to do this. He was sucked into some kind of portal. Here he appeared in some field, cursing the damn system. After that, he saw little Lu Zongwen. The girl turned to her father, mother, and brother, and said that a celestial had arrived in the village. Their village is saved. Then the thought came to mind that her talent for making vessels was the result of an encounter with a legendary celestial when she was a child. The man told everyone to shut up. The protagonist stood behind a tree and watched the whole thing. Everyone asked Mr. Immortal to save this village. It hadn't rained in 6 months. The second man, he started telling everyone to get out of here. He explained that the Lord had only come to choose his apprentice. Gu Feng called him a bastard. But then the Immortal turned his attention to the girl who had just been brought by her father in his arms. He wanted to get a closer look at her. The man introduced himself as an immortal master from the Feng sect. He asked the girl if she wanted to become his disciple. Once she enters the immortal family, she will be able to move mountains, control life and death, and live forever. The girl began to talk about how their cow had died last year. She asked the immortal if he could help her family cultivate the land. To feed her, her parents labor in the fields all day long. The girl offered to give them a cow if Uncle Immortal wanted to help, or at least just make it rain over the village. That girl is ridiculous. Since a mouse's eyes can't see further than its nose, it doesn't need them. The little girl screamed to her mom and dad that her eyes were hurting. Now I see how it was. Soon after, the elder banished Lu Zongwen and her family from the village for insulting an immortal. Their mom was in bad shape. She told her brother that he should take care of his sister. Meanwhile, the girl cried and asked her mom not to leave them. Her parents worked hard to make ends meet, but eventually died during the epidemic. A few years later, her brother, on whom she relied for everything, also died from accidental exposure to military equipment. She called out and didn't realize where her older brother was. She asked that her little brother not leave her alone. In front of her was a huge doll. The toy she let go of was picked up by a passerby. Heaven and earth are merciful. They don't care about humans. Immortals also see ordinary people as nothing but cattle. The old man told the girl that she had dropped something. This was how Lu Zongwen was accepted into the outer circle of disciples of the Qianlan sect. The old man teacher helped her regain her sight and get on the path of development. Although her spiritual roots and talent for development were unfortunate, she was unexpectedly a genius at creating spiritual weapons. But the sect was only interested in power and development, and low-level cultivators like her and the teacher were considered useless and unnecessary. He's worked for them faithfully for 30 years. They're fools to look down on them. Everyone laughed at the old scum teaching the little scum. He's old and can't do anything, but he has heard of a place called Xiqi Jin. When he dies, the girl must go there. People were thanked for coming out to support them. Xiqi Jin is recruiting today. He hopes they can join them. Everyone says that with cultivation, you can change your fate by going against the will of the heavens. But how many people, despite all the attempts, could never even begin the path of development? The system guessed that he wanted to eradicate slavery. She can't wait to see how the Lord is going to save the world out of trouble. Gu Feng explained that a real man is born to accomplish great things and change the world. He wants everyone born on this earth to have their freedom. The system was glad that he had finally made up his mind. All people are created equal and should not oppress others. But then a subordinate shouted that the Feng pavilion in the south of the city was opening today. There are beautiful girls there, delicious wine. They should go as soon as possible, because if they are late, there will be no seats left. He immediately turned his attention to his subordinates, and of course, went with them, forgetting what he was talking about earlier. It seems to the system that all men are the same. White jade is in the sky, and Chongfeng Pavilion is on the ground. First opening day. Special service from Western dancers and half-price drinks. And how could he forget about such an important event like the opening of the Chongfeng Pavilion? It would be a shame not to see the foreign girls of this world. While he was running, he ran into a girl. He didn't understand where the girl had come from. He felt her large and firm breasts on him. It was also unclear what kind of technology this was. He asked the girl if she was okay. This girl turned out to be Gu Kun's biological mother, whose name is Qianlan Lin. She's from the Jia family of the northern desert, a flat-chested deviless who hates two things more than anything else in life, namely, more-breasted girls and Gu Feng. She apologized to Master. Auntie Xia looks unusual today, so the guy didn't recognize her at all. The guy said there was a misunderstanding, but the others looked at him as if they wanted to kill him. One large, hard object fell from her. What kind of misunderstanding are we talking about? Because of Gu Feng, her son lost his inheritance, and now he's insulting her. According to the old decree, Gu Feng, who created a personal army for the purpose of treason, should be arrested immediately. The boy started to stagger back, saying that Auntie was going too far. The meeting at the town keeper's office is over, and this matter is already closed, so there's no need for personal revenge here. She apologized, for she had not received any notification of the arrest warrant being cancelled. Qianlan activated the heavenly anger. If he had known in advance that this would happen, he would have asked his uncle to go with him. Why has he been so lucky lately? A communication system behind him appeared and asked the master if he needed help. He only needed to pay 10,000 low-level spirit stones, but he doesn't need her help, and certainly she won't get a penny from him. He'll need the money today at the Feng Pavilion. He took out a Feng Qianlan seal. After that, the guy turned to Aunt Xia and said that if she continued to provoke him like this, they would die together. If she didn't let him go, he would break the seal of Feng Qianlan. It was a seal that summons heavenly thunder. 10 years ago, the city ruler's squad had surrounded and killed the thunder demon, suffering heavy losses. Could it be that he gave the seal he used to obtain it to his son? If this seal is used, it will destroy half of the city. That kid wouldn't dare do that. She used the snake dance technique. This young master should stop trying to intimidate her. The Feng Qianlan seal gives him the courage to act boldly, but he dare not use it. Since she thinks so, they'd better find out together whether he will or not. He threw this seal at her, after which he started laughing. The girl, as well as the others, started running. This guy's a total badass. She used the dual Qi Yang, the spirit shield of the 5 elements, earth cover, celestial displacement. She's not going to die in a place like this. Whatever talisman he used. But nothing happened. Just when she was about to regain her senses, he had already fled. Qianlan ordered her to run after him. She pushed her subordinate forward and told them not to let him get away. If they didn't catch up with this lad, they would deeply regret it. He used an easy, elusive stride. If he really wanted to get her in trouble, he wouldn't pay attention to the difference in IQ. But they'll put that argument aside for now. Once again, he runs into some girl. Could this be history repeating itself? Using the melting snow technique, she grabbed Gu Feng, after which she laid him on the ground. Who would have thought it would be Feng Fengshu? She threatened him with her fist and asked him who he was and who sent him. But then she looked closer and saw that it was young Master Gu. Auntie arrived and praised Commander Fan's excellent reception. The girl must not let him escape. From this day forward, his life will be worse than death. She already wanted to step on the protagonist, but Feng Feishui didn't let her do that. She asked to dispense with the rudeness. Auntie was shocked. She knew that the army men had despised this worthless young Master Gu for a long time. So it was surprising that their commander was now helping him. The girl slapped her and told her to shut up. The old order was revoked, and now young Master Gu is now the face of Haoqi City. The girl wondered if by attacking him, Xiaolenglin was trying to organize a rebellion. But now it all made sense to her. These scoundrels have made a deal to mess with her. But the Xia family won't give up so easily. All they have to do is just wait. But here, Gu Feng took out an order from the caretaker of the city, which meant that they should obey this man as the caretaker of the city personally. The man inquired who was letting her leave, so she got on all fours in front of them and started barking. Auntie asked if that was enough. Watching the city had given him the seal not to use it like that. Now she recognizes the keeper's seal. She's been putting on an act for some reason before. She has to whimper until he's satisfied, but that was enough for the girl, so she took the main character. But he yelled that he hadn't played yet. She helped him today as he invested in providing for the army. But his disgusting, villainous behavior is unworthy. The guy asked if she was too lenient. Gu Feng is the kind of person who always pays good for good and takes revenge for evil done. If she doesn't like something, she can just give him his money back. She wanted to say something to him, but she didn't even know what words to put to it. He grabbed her wrist and asked if she had anything to say. He also suggested a drink somewhere tonight. She removed her wrist and asked me not to touch her. People approached them and recognized Commander Fan and young Master Gu. They began to speculate about why they were together now. The girl will let him go tonight. They'll settle the score some other time. She called the guy shameless, and he was just disgusted. He, on the other hand, noticed that she was acting like a child. After all that running around, he almost forgot where he was really going. He should hurry up. Feng Pavilion. The young gentleman was surrounded by women, as usual. He recognized that the pavilion is indeed a worthy service. It is worthy of reward. The man sitting next to him didn't understand where this major, who was making so much noise, was coming from. The man is as rich as he is. One only has to look at those precious rings from the western regions. If they serve him well today, maybe he will gift the rings to someone. But even the girl who was with him had defected to young Master Gu's side. He had real fairy wine in his hands. They only need to drink some, and they would stay beautiful for 10 years. Everyone wanted to drink this wine. The protagonist offered another man to also have a drink with them, calling him a friend, but he decided not to. He's not at his best today. Someone's sword pierced this jug of wine while the protagonist was boasting about his generosity. Gu Feng didn't expect this to happen to his wine. He turned back around and asked who was so ignorant here. In the same second, some other person was already flying at him. Everyone stared dumbfoundedly at the person who landed on the ground, then started running away. The protagonist didn't understand what the city guards were doing. The pavilion that was just opened has been damaged. It could damage the city's reputation and business development. There were 2 girls standing there who were surrounded, one of which was Ye Tianxian. The man walked up to young Master Gu and asked if he knew this girl too. She has been quite popular lately. Gu Feng was surprised that this man was still here. He just wants to join in the fun. No matter how many years go by, you can't get rid of that bad habit. It is said that this girl caused a commotion in Huofen City in the east. After she escaped, the city's caretaker, Mujun Renyi, reported the matter to the regional ruler, who ordered her assassination. The order to kill an immortal cultivator is a serious matter, but now everyone living in the east is now obliged to kill Ye Tianxian if they see her. If he wants to continue living in the eastern region, he cannot disobey the ruler's order. The man already wanted to talk about this situation further, but Gu Feng had already disappeared somewhere. Gu Feng jumped down, shouting for them not to dare touch this girl. In his mind, he thought about Ye Tianxian belonging to him, but what the guy didn't take into account is that he can't fly. Gu Feng started to fall down. The man landed in a barrel that was behind all the people. Meanwhile, the unfamiliar girl turned to her older sister. Ye Tianxian calmed her down and told her not to be afraid. After all, she was nearby. It is indeed better to see it once than to hear it 100 times. Nalan Yuan reminded him that she was surrounded by their army, so it was better for her to surrender. In response, however, the girl said that he might not continue. Everyone recognized the man who is the captain from Yiqi's camp. It is said that she trains the 9 moves mysterious dragon art and possesses the power of a mysterious dragon. The dragon slayer sword in his hand has killed hundreds of thousands of demonic cultivators of the southern barbarians. And from what he sees, this fame is well deserved. Although the girl is incredibly talented, she will probably die today. But the journey here was worth it if you get to witness such a spectacle. Meanwhile, the main character was asking for someone to help him. Nalan Yuan must obey the order of the ruler of the eastern region. He must kill the rebels. A man attacked 2 girls. Is that really all he can do? The man took note of her indomitable will of the sword. He had an inkling that she wanted to die with him. At the same time, the girl was thinking of somehow avoiding the blow. This is the end for her, for he is using an ancient sword technique, the 16th form. She also used a technique called the dragon's mouth to punch him in the face. The girl landed and wondered who else would dare attack them. The other soldiers weren't taking any chances. But that wasn't the end of it. It's been a long time since anyone has been able to get their hands on one. The man decided that today they would fight to the death. He used the 9 moves mysterious dragon art. She was already prepared to defend herself. Suddenly something landed on the battlefield. It seems he didn't just ignore what he said recently. The others immediately recognized the voice and turned their attention to him. The protagonist was clearly telling them about becoming. Didn't they hear that? There were several swords behind him. Everyone was wondering how such a weakling was able to use such a huge flying sword. A thought popped into his head. He apologized to the girls for being late. The girl forever knew that her soulmate would show up the most dangerous moment to save her. She greeted the protagonist. But Gu Feng simply didn't pay any attention to her and just pushed her aside. His attention was completely focused on Ye Tianxian. He told her not to be afraid, because as long as he was around, no one in this city would harm her. Although he and Brother Gu had found common ground, but he shouldn't get involved in this situation. And yet he insists on following through. The sword he touched began to disintegrate. It was clear that it was some kind of Chinese fake. He didn't expect the quality to be so bad. It seems that these flying swords should be finalized before mass production. But here, Nalan Yuan didn't think of staying away. It's all just childish tricks to him. He's broken the rest of the flying balls. The man hopes that the young lord will not interfere when the army at his command is engaged in the capture of a dangerous rebel on the orders of the ruler. But he did say this girl is one of his people. He will cover for her. In his mind, he asks the man to save face for Gu Feng. If he didn't start a fight, it would be Gu Feng's problem. And all because of the damn system. He had a mandatory assignment. Now the system not only cheats him out of money, but also wants to force him to do something. This happened a week ago. Ye Tianxian was the key figure in saving the world. The difficulty of the task was rated at 5 stars, and there was no reward for completing it. That was the price he would have to pay for using the system, since the young master insists on obstructing the order of the ruler of the region. And look, the city has once again gone to train in seclusion. The subordinate has no other choice. He should punish the young master without pity. It was as he knew this villain carried a surprise punch. The girl called him a scoundrel. Julong stopped Nalan Yuan. The man inquired as to who was here. In fact, it doesn't even matter who he is. All that matters is that no one in the city dares to attack those under its protection. But an order from the ruler of a region is not something the people of a small town can ignore. Guy ordered Julong to give this old man a good beating, but he is only providing security for the young master. The man asked to be left out of the rest. First, a stupid system that cheats him out of money all the time. Then a subordinate who wouldn't listen to orders. The guy wondered if there was anyone he could trust. The girl suggested that her big sister try to slip away. Ye Tianchen agreed to it. She began to flatter her brother that he was so kind and noble that the girl could never repay him. The protagonist replied that if she wanted to show her gratitude, let them get out of here sooner. The unfamiliar girl called herself Ye Lusu. She also started to say something about fate, but the guy didn't hear her at all. He had noticed that her name was very strange. Now he had to think how to explain to his father about disobeying the ruler's order. That would be a headache. But Ye Tianchen wasn't feeling well and started spitting blood. The protagonist realized that it wouldn't work and would have to spend money again to help the system. Then he saw something land in front of him, and it was those 2 girls. How fortunate it all worked out. Gu Huaisheng, who is the second uncle of Gu Feng, and Xia Linglin arrived. The second uncle reminded that Ye Tianchen should be captured. Aunt Zia spotted that loser Gu Feng and told him to get the hell out of here. The boy wondered what would happen if he didn't want to leave here. He also reached for the caretaker's seal. The second uncle knows that the kid has the seal of the caretaker of the city, but in this case he should not interfere. The woman babbled on about how if the eldest son of the overseer wanted to protect this wench who had been declared a criminal by the ruler of the region, then he would die today. But the man rudely interrupted her and told her to shut up. She stared dumbfoundedly at Gu Huaisheng, not expecting him to say such words at all. The protagonist reminded the second uncle that they were one family after all and asked if there was no way to come to an agreement. Even if his father was here, an order from the ruler, it's still an order from the ruler. Come to think of it, that nephew really made a fool of himself. Since this is an order from the ruler, and he holds the seal of the overseer of the city, he devalues his father's work by his actions. Second uncle didn't expect that Gu Feng wanted to hand over the Haoqi seal to him, but the kid threw a firebomb at them and said that this uncle was dreaming. He took the 2 girls and asked Julong to detain them. The man recalled that the rulers of the region had given the order to kill the rebel Ye Tianchen. Anyone who tried to prevent this, whoever they were, should be punished as an accomplice. He ordered Nalan Yuan to carry out the order. This general listens to Gu Huaisheng. Tonight he will kill them without mercy. Julong only sighed, realizing that it was really time for him to intervene. He appeared in front of them. Julong used the sand snake technique. The girl noticed that this technique was only available to those who had reached the confusion stage. It was impossible for an ordinary bodyguard. Does Mr. Julong also insist on intervening in this matter? But the man only replied that if they tried to attack the young lord who was under his protection, he would stop them, and the rest was none of his concern. The second uncle used a technique that created a large silhouette. Their battle began, watched by the others. Qianlan asked the others, wondering why they were frozen in place. Afterward, the woman explained that Gu Feng was protecting a criminal. His actions are unforgivable. They must not let Nalan Yuan take all the glory for himself. There's no way she's going to let him leave. The guy stopped. Looks like there's no escape from the city now. The protagonist doesn't care if he survives today or not. But there are things that weigh on his heart, and he can't die peacefully without expressing them. But he immediately took the 2 girls after him and screamed for the fucking system to bail them out. The system asked the owner not to be angry. The guy asked how much it would cost to fix the problem. He would pay her. She decided to first count how much money he even had left. Developing a flying sword costs 20,000. Another 10,000 to develop a magic weapon. The 3rd stage of Xiqi Jin's expansion costs 18,000. Also, 50,000 for personal luxuries. Well, and 8,000 as staff salary. What a pity, because the next receipts from the treasure loan pavilion have not yet been transferred. At the moment, she cannot act because the owner has nothing to pay. Meanwhile, they had already been followed by Nalan Yuan, who was definitely not going to let them go so easily. Even though he comes from a famous family, his development is average. He also didn't live up to his father's expectations. Ever since he was a kid, the various bastards in Haoqi City have been humiliating him to satisfy their egos. He doesn't intend to take it anymore. She was tired of hearing all this and wanted to interrupt him, but the man stopped her. He decided to let Gu Feng speak before he died, and the protagonist did not understand what kind of order it was that it could not be broken, and why you can't save a man's life. He drank what was in the jug, after which he smashed it and yelled about how he was sick of it all. All laws are just an excuse for those in power. They only care about their own prosperity. They did not even think about the suffering of ordinary people. Lu Zongwen's memories of her horrible childhood flashed through his mind, but they were also born as ordinary mortals. Originally, there was no difference between cultivators and everyone else. And what pisses him off the most is the fact that they pretend to be fair and compassionate. It's just disgusting. The gods have indeed created this world unjustly. All living beings suffer, because that is the way it is. But this is ridiculous. She didn't understand how the caretaker's son could talk such nonsense. Today, his death is inevitable. She used the snake dance technique, but she didn't even manage to hurt him. And also, someone hurt her face. Qianlan called bullshit, but in her opinion, he was absolutely right. She told the guy to take care of her little sister and get her out of here. Now the girl can die without regret. Everywhere was familiarized specifically with brother Gu Feng. She used an ancient sword technique, yin-yang formation, after which she attacked Qianlan. Ye Tianchen switched girls to Nalan Yuan. Only a cultivator at the 9th level of the Golden Core could truly suppress the development at the 3rd level of soul nucleation. He used the 9 moves mysterious dragon art, swirling dragon. He also didn't understand where that nasty Qianlan had gone. Meanwhile, she only dreamed of killing him. It is her son, whose name is Gukun, who should be the first, and Gu Feng should go to hell. The guy started to explain that her son can't sing, dance, or rap. He can't even play basketball. There's no way he'll go first. The woman told him to shut up, but she was stopped and wounded. Mr. Gu's old servant arrived to help. The men used the wind technique, 1,000 balls flying into the eye of the storm. This attack swooped down on Qianlan. The subordinate asked the master how he felt about it. Gu Feng replied that this was not the time for introductions and should get out of here as soon as possible. This old servant decided to pave the way for the young master, used the wind technique, a united strike. An old loser at the 5th level of Jindan. If she hadn't drained her energy stabilizing Gukun's cultivation, killing this old man would have been easy. But now, he had pissed her off. If it came to that, she'd send him to hell. The women used the snake technique, the awakening. She stabbed a subordinate, but the spies said this woman was weak. Why would she do something like that? Lao Wei let the young master down. He dropped dead. With rage and tears in his eyes, he shouted his name. Lao Wei, on the other hand, had always promised to take care of him. Gu Feng can't even do anything to help him. Memories of the man calming the young master flashed through the protagonist's mind. Whereupon the man began to chase the little rascals who had offended the young gentleman. He was also introducing the young gentleman to the performance. He mentioned that if they didn't hurry back, the caretaker of the town would be angry. There was also a memory of a young master trying to lift 2 leaves high. Even though he failed, the man said that the young gentleman was incredibly talented and a true genius. It was supposed to be a story about a hero who pretends to be a simpleton, but actually about easily defeating any opponents. The boy didn't understand why things had turned out this way. Julong noticed that Lao Wei was in trouble. Things are bad, but the man didn't think of letting him go so easily. The woman attacked the protagonist to go to hell with this pathetic old man. Let her kill him if she dares to do so. Even if he becomes a ghost, he will haunt her for the rest of her life. But suddenly her sword stopped right in front of his face. Slow jets of water, the flight of a multicolored phoenix. Fate was written in the currents of the wind. The silhouette of a girl appeared in front of him. She touched his cheek and called his name. After which, the girl turned her attention to that woman who wanted to kill Gu Feng. She used her technique. After which, she touched Qianlan. Her body began to erode. The second uncle struck Julong, but he turned his attention to the place where Lanlin and Gu Feng were fighting. He sensed the soul shard of a great master who had reached the transformation stage. After which, second uncle shouted for Qianlan to run away from there. She saw what was happening to her body and just screamed for help. The guy asked who she was, but the girl told him not to ask too many questions. The girl clasped her hands together, and someone's scream was heard. That's devil magic for sure. How dare she use her soul to create a weapon? We have to stop her. But here, Julong, who decided to reminded himself. Now I can see why she didn't hesitate to go for it. Nalan Yuan ordered them to be captured. He's afraid that if he continues, it could get them in big trouble. How reckless these people are. She dealt with everyone who wanted to harm Gu Feng in one fell swoop. Others, however, immediately took notice. He couldn't believe it was really his mom. He recognized her. Now it was all set. Nalan Yuan looked dumbfounded and recognized that this was the same spiritual fruit of the Tao. No one is capable of creating such a thing. Julong realized that she had used the remnants of her soul to create this treasure. Second uncle realized how precious it was. The girl turned to the guy and said it was the last gift from his mother. She touched his cheek and also added that she wanted the guy to live a free and prosperous life. The girl placed this fruit in his body. Lao Wei will also be blessed today. He reached out his hand, for he wanted to touch the silhouette of his mother. But unfortunately, he won't be able to do that. The guy noticed something appear in his hands. A subordinate also woke up and asked the young master why this old servant was lying in his arms. He flipped off his subordinate, who only recently had already been at death's door. Now other people wanted to pounce on them. The second uncle wanted to take back what Gu Feng had gotten. Right now, all of Haoqi City's forces are gathered here. No matter how many allies he has, it will be difficult for him to slip away. Just that is to stop resisting and give him Ye Tianchen. There might still be a place for him in Haoqi City. Julong noticed something. The guy told that damn old man to shut up. He wouldn't even dare repeat it in front of Gu Feng's father. He was approached by a girl who wanted to fight together. She's willing to take responsibility for herself. Uncle explained that even if Gu Liantian came out of seclusion, he wouldn't be able to protect them. But now things began to happen that were not expected. Uncle announced that a representative of the ruler had arrived, and everyone should kneel. It was a flying cart pulled by animals. Gu Huaisheng of the Gu family and the rest of the masters of Haoqi City greet the immortal ruler envoy. Everyone repeated after their uncle and began to greet the immortal envoy. The guy tugged on Julong's sleeve and asked if in a situation like this, shouldn't he stop holding back? The man replied that he did not sense any killing intent from him. So for now, he leads Lao Wu away from here. But Lao Wu replied that it was the old man and the young master who had lived together and would die together. The guy didn't understand what was going on and why Julong had run away so quickly. Did he really have no chance at all? The guy certainly had a bad feeling that this manhwa was coming to an end. Would it really be over before he even became cool? The second uncle called Gu Feng an insolent man and asked why he didn't kneel down. But the main character didn't understand anything at all. The immortal envoy appeared in person. He must have arrived here to capture Ye Tianchen. Considering his strength and merit, as well as Gu Feng's foolish behavior, this prosperous city would already be in his hands very soon. But the immortal messenger replied that it was all nonsense. The guy remembered Julong's words about not feeling any killing intent. This was all strange. The immortal envoy replied that he had come here on business. He will declare the will of the great ruler of the East. Ye Tianchen has a rebellious character, has no respect for laws, is insolent and arrogant. The man wanted to stop her to finish listening first, but she didn't want to listen to this nonsense. The girl is ready to die here, but Brother Gu shouldn't do that. However, she has outstanding talent and limitless potential, and their great ruler values talent above all else. So from this day forward, the immediate kill order is lifted. He also added that Ye Tianchen should stay in Haoqi City and work for its benefit. Uncle just couldn't believe it. He began to argue that it didn't make any sense. Uncle didn't understand why the ruler would forgive a rebellion at all. The immortal envoy looked disdainfully and asked if this man doubted the wisdom of the ruler of the eastern region. He started to get expensive and replied that he wouldn't dare do that. There was something Gu Feng couldn't believe, that he valued talents so much. There are millions of cultivators in the eastern region, and dozens of new geniuses and monsters appear every year. Or perhaps it's about other talents. Could it be that the ruler had fallen in love with her? Gu Feng didn't know that little sister had such a strong support. The guy asked who put in a good word for her and asked him to introduce them. Then he would finally be rewarded for his hard work. But the girl really doesn't understand what happened. The immortal envoy also inquired about the whereabouts of the son of the city's caretaker, Gu Feng. The guy raised his hand and said he was here. Since the matter had been resolved, he shouldn't continue with all of this. Gu Feng greeted the immortal envoy. He also explained that he was already the kind of person who couldn't always watch his tongue. He hoped that the immortal envoy didn't take things personally. He wouldn't want to face such a monster if something went wrong. But he wouldn't mind getting close to the ruler. The girl began to make excuses that Brother Gu was both arrogant and polite at the same time. The uncle was furious, for this was clearly not the outcome he had expected for his favorite nephew. That brat doesn't know how high the sky is. It's the first time he's ever seen someone ask to die like that. He suddenly interrupted his train of thought abruptly clapping the immortal envoy on the shoulder, as if to bring him back to reality. After which, Feng asked if he was really angry. It had never occurred to him that someone who was considered the epitome of composure could be so sensitive to ordinary words or actions. Others just didn't understand how anyone could be so brazen. The immortal messenger's face contorted as if he was angry, or simply annoyed. He said that in hundreds of years, no one had ever dared to touch the messenger who read out the will of the ruler. Uncle already thought that this rebel was finished, but at the last moment, the immortal messenger called him young and promising. With his audacity, he was able to win the favor of the immortal envoy. He also recognized that from this point of view, the ruler was truly prescient. Despite his youth, he has an outstanding level of development and excellent upbringing. He is worthy of being a leader among the heirs and young masters of the eastern region. The fellow clarified for the immortal envoy that he was only at the 3rd level of ki concentration. But he decided not to go into details and said it didn't matter. He should also listen to this order. The ruler appoints Feng as the representative of Haoqi City. He will receive a monthly salary of 500 high-quality spiritual stones to take his place in the shrine of Yukong Palace. Others were surprised that he would be paid money. The family of their caretaker was not related to the ruler. No one realized just how gifted Feng was. Hearing this, blood came from Gu Huisheng's nose. The immortal envoy congratulated his young friend. According to the rules, he would have to return with him to the Yukun Palace to introduce himself to the ruler. But with his level of development, it would be difficult. The boy asked if there was something wrong with his outstanding level of development. This young friend has an outstanding level, but the wind is so strong today that he cannot linger and must return soon. We'll have to postpone this matter for now, when the young friend has improved his skills. Others will come to help him. To bring it closer, he handed over a heaven-level elixir called the 3 Patterns Flowering Pill. It has a marvelous effect on purifying the bone marrow and strengthening the meridians for cultivators below the soul nucleation stage. This is a gift for his young friend. Mr. Immortal's messenger is so kind. The protagonist is flattered by the gesture. He barely has the courage to accept such a generous gift. At a glance, one can see the heavenly elixir. Could it be that the ruler of the region is its secret benefactor? The immortal messenger explained that on the 2nd day of October, the ruler was having a great battle with the heavens. Stoyu the ruler hopes that the young friend can stand out by then, so they must not let the ruler down. The envoy must return to Yukon Palace to report to the ruler, so he can't stay here any longer. They will see this young friend soon. The guy didn't know what kind of battle this battle was. Ye Tianchen was also surprised that he didn't know anything about this battle at all. The girl explained that the great battle with the heavens is held once every 100 years by the rulers of the eastern region. It mainly targets the younger generation of masters from the 12 major cities in the region. The top 3 usually receive valuable rewards. However, each city can only field 2 contestants. Therefore, there is first a struggle between the heirs of the main families to be among the contestants. This can be very dangerous. The 2nd day of the next Lunar New Year will be the time of another battle, so fighting is inevitable. Feng smiled slyly and replied, "Here comes the foxtail showing." The girl inquired which tail he was talking about. The guy replied that it didn't matter. No tails would prevent him from making a profit. He asked the immortal messenger to wait. The protagonist reported that the immortal messenger had something else for him. He bid the immortal envoy farewell, but the guy wanted to clarify one more thing. He and the ruler know each other well. The ruler appreciates his youth and accomplishments, and the lad respects his strength and virtue, though he wasn't going to talk about their relationship. It was just that for as long as he could remember, the ruler usually gave him spirit stones or magical weapons. It's weird that he handed him the pill. Or did someone daring in the officialdom close the real reward? It doesn't matter to a guy, but from an immortal envoy, he could be accused of disloyalty and stoned to death. The immortal messenger replied that he wasn't that stupid. If the ruler had wished, the boy would be dead by now. But why does the immortal messenger say that? The ruler loves him so much that he even handed him a pill. He's very bold and shameless. The immortal messenger likes it that way. He gave Feng a rare flying sword called Hao Yue. This artifact would add to his chances of victory. The immortal messenger also asked him not to forget the favor if he could survive. The fellow replied that it would still be even better if the immortal messenger could lend him an extraordinary soul nucleation level beast. The immortal envoy turned around and replied that since he needed this beast so badly, let him have it. The immortal messenger flew away, and the guy was already riding the beast. He went back to Xiqi to show her what exotic beast he had been given. All of them must have heard that the ruler had rescinded his order to kill Ye Tianxian. He also gave him a special reward. So the guy told them to get out while he was still kind. Nalan Yuan replied that this general was only following orders. Now he was willing to follow young Master Gu's favorite orders, even if he sent the general to his death. The protagonist replied that everything was fine, and he understood everything. He also ordered the general to take care of the wounded. The guy added that he and the other squad leaders should come to him tomorrow. Afterward, he turned to the second uncle and told that old man not to pretend to be dead. He admitted his defeat even though he was just a little short. Therefore, Gu Feng could do whatever he wanted. Uncle asked if he was still willing to honor the agreement they made at the meeting. Ye Tianxian wanted to tell the old man that this was too much, but she was interrupted by the guy. Gu Feng replied that of course he was honoring the agreement. Gu Feng only smiled and reminded him that he was always responsible for his words and always kept his promises. He then grabbed the girl by the arm and told her it was time for them to leave. She asked slower, for she had never ridden such a beast before. Meanwhile, the girl asked her older sister to wait for her. Qiongfeng Pavilion. Today they drink to the bottom because they need to relax after such stressful events and also celebrate Gu Feng's promotion. There was also a table with food in front of them. The girl drank some more, after which she undressed, for she was very hot. She offered to party all night. But Ye Tianxian managed to knock her out before she made a mess that she would regret in the morning. Now the girl finally understood why the teacher wouldn't let her drink. Yi's sister had been living on the run for a long time and was under a lot of pressure. The guy suggested a little conversation in a quieter place. The girl agreed and was a little embarrassed. Meanwhile, her younger sister was picked up by Lao Wei to bring her to her room. They were drinking on the roof under a huge moon. The moon shines brightly above them. The ground is already covered with frost. He said to look at the moon, and then to lower his head and remember his native home. The girl did not expect that the boy composed such beautiful poems. She also did not suspect that he had a gift for poetry. Even people like him can read the poem. The girl replied that Brother Gu was as modest as usual. She remembered his poem about putting her head down and remembering her ancestral home. Except her hometown was destroyed. He advised her not to give in to depression. Life is wonderful and should be enjoyed. The protagonist also asked her what she thought about actually settling in Haoqi. Gu Feng offered her another drink. She cups her drink and notes that Brother Gu is very kind, and she is grateful for that. In this vast world, the eastern region is but a drop in the ocean. If a girl wants to become stronger and kill her enemies with her own hands, she must go much farther. To the south of Haoqi City lies the Nanman Desert, where demonic cultivators are rampant. To the west lies the realm of Qianlan, a land of Buddhists who are merciful to all living things. The northern wastelands are occupied by witches and insect masters. And then there's the legendary vast sea, which is full of secrets. She asked the guy if he wanted to go with her to see it all. It only came to him that this girl was confessing her love to him. Gu Feng apologized and explained that he had his own way. Ye Tianxian understands this, for everyone has things that need to be done. The girl doesn't know how to thank the guy for what he's done for her these days. She handed him an ancient immortal treasure that she found in a tomb deep in the Qianlan Mountains, which is located 300 miles north of Feng. It contains a sword technique. If a guy scrutinizes it carefully, it will give him something important in the future. He was grateful to his sister for her kindness. She doesn't know if her talent would be enough to understand the technique from that broken sword, but the girl believes that Brother Gu will be able to figure it out. It would also serve to remind the guy about Ye Tianxian. The girl kissed his cheek. It even made Gu Feng feel embarrassed. The girl only looked at his facial expression silently, after which she decided to leave, whether out of embarrassment over her actions or simply afraid of Gu Feng's reaction. He looked at her and could say nothing. Meanwhile, the system criticized the wild woman for daring to lay eyes on the master. The system explained that such a woman would not tolerate being ignored for at least a day. He immediately removed his hand from hers, and the boy was surprised that she dared to come here. He told the system to stay away from him, for she was only deceiving people. So he used the system, and now he doesn't want to know. That's not very polite of him. She touched his chin, explaining that he seemed to have misunderstood something about their relationship.